Hello, everyone. DMGeezerjim here, back to continue along my monster short series. How to fight monsters better, how to know them, and some things to keep in mind as we have so many monsters available to us as dungeon masters to play with in combat. And I want to just kind of touch on a few things to know about them. In my opinion, some things that are important to keep in mind to make these monster encounters more challenging, whether it be more difficult combat, more engaging in role playing and environment, or what have you. All monsters bring a lot to the table more than just being sacks of hit points. So let's just talk about that. So today, this time we're going to talk about the Gibbering Mouther, some creepy, ugly, ooky, nasty thing. 5th edition stat block, 5th edition pure. Thanks for joining me for this. Just real quick, I'll be using 5th edition creatures whenever possible, referring to D&D Beyond for ease of duplication, shall we say, and to make sure that we're doing rule as written, and allowing us to expand from there. So let's get to it. Gibbering Mouther, it's considered an aberration in class. What it actually is a result of sorcery and all the ooky bad magic in the world, resulting in some creature that is able to absorb other matter. As it absorbs the matter, the victims of this creature are still aware of who they are or what they were, what they were, and the only thing that's left is their eyes and their mouths as they become part of this horrifying, amorphous, amoeba-like, gross thing. Okay, so 3 things to know about a Gibbering Mouther. Obviously, we're going to start out with number 1, how ooky they should be. So the first thing you really want to lean into is the presentation of this thing, because the abilities and the next 2 things to know about it are obviously going to be dependent completely, not completely, but very dependent on how well you're able to describe this thing. So if you just say there's this big reddish blob that rolls around the corner, with a bunch of mouths and a bunch of eyes on it, that's that's still kind of spooky, but it should be one of those things that you can hear the murmuring and the chattering before it comes in though. So the first thing to know about number 1 about running a Gibbering Mouther is setting the stage for this creature. Make sure that in your mind you're prepared to make a bunch, or at least describe dozens of different voices and chatters and murmurs and whispers and whimpers and cries that are kind of echoing through the hallways or echoing through the cavern or even the laboratory room, where this Mouther is located. It moves amorphously. It doesn't move very fast. It's only got a 10-foot movement speed, so that's going to be one of the pluses on it. So it's going to be a long buildup. So we'll get into that when we get into the abilities. But laying out the foundation for this creature's appearance is paramount about it. Make sure that you're talking about, indeed, the picture as we saw. Let me flip back over to that. It's not a pretty sight. It's a large, amorphous, blobby object of various mouths. Some of them are humanoid, some of them are beastly, because it doesn't care what it absorbs. So, some of the voices are just going to be guttural, what it would sound like normally, a ghoul or a troll. Some of them are going to be people. It ate people, so the people are going to be chattering. The eyes are going everywhere. So, yeah, the presentation of it, its first appearance, and that's going to vary by your campaign. Obviously, your table, is going to, you need to know how your table feels about the ook factor before you lean too far into it. But you definitely want to lean into the ook factor on this creature. The chattering of the teeth and the wet sound as the flesh rolls across the floor and slaps down and pulls itself forward, and the dozens and dozens of different eyes, and no 2 eyes sitting next to each other look the same. Some are humanoid with a white iris or blue iris. Others are yellow with just lean into the ook factor as you appear it, to the extent that your players will tolerate it. First thing to know, present it as it is. Crazy. The second thing to know is its abilities. It is not a potent creature in regards to its threats. Its direct threat. Okay, this is going to be kind of a quick oh crap fight. It should not be lethal. So let's get the first thing out. The second thing to know is, how does it fight? How do we fight it? So it's only got a 10-foot movement speed. It's only got a 10-foot swim speed. Armor class of 9, challenge rating of 2. Low level monster. It's not a big set piece thing. One or two of these can kind of show up throughout an adventure to kind of screw with your party. Third level party really shouldn't have much of an issue dealing with one of these as a moderate encounter, unless they get unlucky on some saving throws. But it's immune to being prone because it's already prone. It's already this slidey thing. Only 10 foot of speed. So, and it only has a 5-foot reach on its bite, and its special ability, its binding spittle, only has a range of 15 feet. So be cautious in using a Gibbering Mouther in a really large room or in an area where your players can kite it, where they can retreat out of it, do ranged attacks, keep retreating out of it. Because basically, as long as they can keep more than 25 feet away from it, it is not a threat to them at all. So that's the downside of its abilities, is it's easy to kite. So danger-wise, it's pretty low. Armor class of 9 is low. I think the zombie is one of the few things that's got a lower armor class than it. Pretty durable hit point-wise, 67 on average. For challenge rating 2, for a third level group, it's not a huge threat if they know how to fight it, or if you put it in a position that it's not going to be able to move. So put it in a closet, put it in a small laboratory type of a thing. They open a chest and this thing, they hear all the murmuring and the chattering, and this large box is sitting there rocking back and forth, and it sounds like dozens of voices. Someone's going to open that crate. They hear murmuring from the other side of this door. It's just a closet that this thing is trapped in. And they can just see something pushing at the bottom of the door maybe. Just so how you present it and where you put it is the second thing in regards to its abilities. It's got a bite attack, a reach of 5. It can knock a target prone. It's got binding spittle, where it can shoot something up and flash and blind everybody in an area if they don't succeed on a dexterity savings throw. Now, its number one defense is its aberrant ground ability. Okay, anyone within 10 feet of it has to make a DC 10 strength saving throw, or their speed is reduced to 0 until the start of their next turn immediately. So each creature that starts its turn in this area, so they could move into it, ironically, starts their turn. So if they move close and I move close, then all of a sudden they have to make the save on their next turn. Otherwise, they can't move. It's reactionary. It's not causational. Okay? Protects low-level parties from getting completely overwhelmed. Gives them some outs, but it does give you opportunities with a slow, low-range creature to close the ground. The gibbering is interesting because any creature that starts its turn within 20 feet of the Mouther and can hear it must make a DC 10 Wisdom save. Not super high. DC 10's, pretty low save. This is a low-level creature. It's okay. On a failure, the creature can't take reactions until the start of its next turn, and rolls a D8 to determine what it does. On a 1 to 4, it does nothing. It's like temporary confusion. On a 1 to 4, they do nothing. 5 or 6, they take no action or bonus action, and they move in a randomly determined direction. On a 7 or 8, they make a melee attack against a randomly determined creature within its range, or does nothing if it can't make an attack. So this is the main feature of Mr. Mouther here. Okay? When creatures move within 20 feet of it, or start their turn within 20 feet of it, they have to make the save. It's every turn, every constant thing. So if they can keep it at range, it's a super, super, super easy encounter for your party. If you put them in an area where getting in out of range of it quickly is a problem, it can very quickly become a difficult, overwhelming fight for the party. Now, it does significant damage on its bite, up to 5d6 piercing damage, okay? That's a lot, but it's only got a +2 on its hit, so it shouldn't hit very often. A level 3 wizard is going to have an armor class of 12 to 14 without shield. So, by proxy, I've got to roll a 12 or better on this to hit the worst armor class in a level 3 group. Okay, so its danger isn't the biggest issue. It's a big, ooky, scary monster that you probably won't kill your party with unless they have a lot of bad luck. So that's a plus side of it. And that really sums up its the number 2, knowing its abilities. Number 3 thing is where to play it. Okay, and that's the fun, flexible thing of this ugly, nasty. Oop, let me get back to the other art. Sorry, because it's aberration, because it's based on magical experiments. This is kind of a DM's choice type of a thing. You could have it in an urban encounter running around in the basement of a mad mage or an evil cult. You could have it in, obviously, in any dungeon type of a scenario. You could have it in a cave system type encounter. It likely would not be above ground in any way, shape, or form because of its limited mobility. It does have a swim speed, so if you want to go with a subterranean passage, it kind of equates. It gives the gives our Gibbering Mouther a little bit better of a chance in combat because, unless your characters have swim speed, now it's a difficult terrain. Doesn't have climb, doesn't have fly, it has crawl, so it's always going to be oozing around. So vertical areas will give it a problem. Vertical areas will give your players the advantage of shooting at it all day long without it being a problem. That's its biggest thing in when you decide where to use it. Make sure you're using you have a lot of freedom with it, but you have also have a lot of opportunities to turn it into a null encounter. Your party didn't really, other than being ugly, it wasn't a big deal. We just walked away 20 feet, shot it, walked away 30 feet, shot it, and it dies. Because it doesn't have a bunch of resistances. As a matter of fact, it has none. It's going to take full damage from everything. It has a dark vision of 60 and passive perception of 10. A sneaky rogue's probably going to have a pretty good chance of hiding from the creature. So where you're placing it, while you have the freedom in regards to environments, you have a responsibility in regards to tactically placing it in smaller areas, placing it where the party can't easily clamber up above and play floor is lava and ignore the Mouther up ultimately. But yeah, that's really it, guys. The Gibbering Mouther is a fun monster. It's something that kind of gets left off the table. It can be a bigger challenge for a lower level party based on the gibbering factor of it. DC 10 wisdom is not high, but a first, second, third level party isn't going to have the highest wisdom saves across the board. So you can very easily, get lucky for you as the DM, unlucky for them as the party, and end up with a couple people roaming around, confused every turn. The aberrant ground can mobilize a party, but remember, these are all reactive. So the party has to be forced into moving to it or be restricted away from moving from it for the aberrant ground or the gibbering to even matter. So yeah, fun monster, ugly monster, cool looking monster, but yeah, ultimately, it's going to be more about how you decide to use this and where you place it for it to be a significant, genuine threat in your campaigns or your adventures. But I don't want to dissuade you from use. Just want to provide you with some information on how to, consider its abilities and the existence of this as a fun middle ground creature. 3 or 4 or 5 of these running through a dungeon complex could potentially be a threat for a party. Even though there's only at 10 at a pace, if you're in a maze and you get in a dead end and this Gibbering Mouther closes in on the backside, all of a sudden that 10-foot movement doesn't mean anything because it's going to get to you. So using it in those kind of environments, those kind of situations that the party's as limited in their mobility as the Mouther, then it's suddenly a major threat in combat. But hey, alrighty guys, DMGeezerjim just closing out another monster short. What's a Gibbering Mouther and how to use it. 3 things to keep in mind around it. Number 1, it's to close it as a reminder. Number 1, its appearance and its ook factor is going to be the major thing about it. It's not a hugely difficult. It's not a difficult monster. It's got some random luck factors to it, but how you present it as a dungeon master is going to affect combat with it more than its actual stats. Terrify your party with it, gross them out, force them just slightly off of their rationality with it the first time they see it. They'll make a mistake. Second thing to remember is obviously its abilities. Okay, it has some AoE effects that are triggered by player agency. The player has to move into this range and start their turn in this range to be knocked down. The player has to be within 20 feet of the creature to have the cacophony, the confusion effect kick in. It can do some damage, but it doesn't do a bunch. So it shouldn't be a lethal encounter, although it can be fun and challenging without ending with a bunch of resources being spent. Lastly brings us to last. Where you use it, number 3, is going to affect the fight. Make sure that it doesn't have, the players don't have space to range it from altitude. They don't have space to kite it around. And if you want to use multiples, then they become a threat. Just try not to drop 5 of them at the party at the same time. But all right, guys, thanks for joining me. Last but not least, we're going to show our little bye-bye shot of our ugly Gibbering Mouther here. Appreciate you joining me for this monster short. Going to make a few more in this series. And likes, follows, subscribes, comments. Let me know if there's a critter you want me to cover. Let me know what you think about these videos. If there's something else that you want me, that you think is important, throw it in the comments. I love hearing back from you guys. Love interacting. You guys be safe. Thank you.